When the internet started, the idea was that it would be this boon for democracy, that it would be the marketplace of ideas. And then, you got all these sort of, all this hate speech popping up. And I think we've got to be very careful about necessarily giving that also too much legitimacy. Because I think also we sometimes overreact to it. And what we need to realise is that, yes, sure, the baddies are at work. They are very dedicated to their cause, and they, in fact, come from a place of being outside of the norms. But also, people that are putting good on, and doing good on the internet are also there. And we've got to, I think, be consistent. Put the good stuff out there, but also manage expectations. I think sometimes we, put good stories out there and we're like, why hasn't it gone viral? But the baddies do put stuff out there and it doesn't go viral either. I mean, in the end, we can't just simply do stuff because, I've got to change the world like right now. And I put this post on there and it didn't change the world, so I'm not going to do anything ever again. You've got to be consistent and also stick to your values. And if that's what you believe in, just keep putting that message out there, keep working. And we need to give people a pathway to change. This is the issue. This is how change happens, it's not just that you put messages out there, but you also start to create communities and cultures of good. One thing that I think Australia really lacks is in general cultural competency. You go to parts of Asia and people just don't care about what nationality or race, and then you go to some places and they're absolutely atrocious. But the point is that we need to create a world where it's okay to be different. And when we do that, that's when the people from the other side can really start to jump over, when it becomes an established norm. And through doing that on the internet is by just constantly putting stuff out there. So it's not just a battle, but we're actually trying to recreate human interaction. That's what we're trying to do. It's not just like, oh, the baddies put something out, I'm going to put something out. It's got to be that this is the norm, this is how we talk, and that people can start to feel comfortable coming over to that sort of way of an online presence.
Weidian, what would you like our wonderful audience of change makers to go out and do?
I'm not going to tell you what to do. I mean, on the point of hate speech and expectations, the expectation is always from the victims of hate speech to do something about it, that it's our responsibility. And I certainly agree with that. But I think sometimes when we're talking about hate speech, people think that we have some sort of enshrined right to free speech. Hate speech and free speech are two very, very different things. And the fact that people believe you have a right to be a bigot, or the fact that people think it's okay to say certain things about a group of people when it's not, is really a reflection of where we're at. And I feel almost embarrassed sometimes to travel around the world and people say, oh, you're from Australia, I heard there are a bunch of racists. Well, no, that's not who we are. And we certainly pride ourselves on multiculturalism, but we could do multiculturalism so much better than how we're doing it today. And I think that when we're talking about hate speech and when we're talking about online hate speech in particular, we need to realise that words have casualties. We are the casualties of those words that people spit at us every single day. Young people who are committing suicide because of online bullying or because of hate speech are a casualty of what is happening, not just online, but face to face. And I think that it's everybody's responsibility, not only in this room, but beyond, that we stand up to those bullies. I'm not a believer in the, if they're a stupid person, don't argue with them. Okay, it's a case-by-case judgment, but I'm all about, no, take it head on. If that person has a right to be hateful or to be racist or to be an Islamophobe, I have a right to defend myself. So telling young people you've got the power in your hands, but ignore the bullies when you come across them, I think is completely not proactive. I think it's dangerous to lead young people to believe that they have the power and then tell them, oh, just calm down, don't overreact to it, because I think that's making an assumption that that young person doesn't hold that power, and they do. So I would say take them head on in a safe environment. If you don't feel safe, then certainly I wouldn't encourage it. And if you're from a cultural background or a multicultural background, you don't need to just talk about diversity. You simply existing pisses off those people that hate you. So that in itself is an achievement. And I would strongly encourage everybody in this room to go beyond your community, to talk about issues far beyond. I mean, like I said, I'm more than a Muslim, I'm more than a refugee. That's a huge part of who I am, but that's not everything that I am. And me being here in front of you all, I think, will upset a lot of people. So, yay for us.
Great. Just quickly before we open the Q&A, Mo, anything you'd like to say about what you'd like our audience to sort of hold on to?
I mean, it's incredible to see a lot of the people here. I think this is what's definitely been needed for a long time. So, no, I mean, nothing specific. You know, you're all awesome. Just, you know it.
Kavita?
Yeah, look, I think that this is an incredible opportunity and advantage. And I think there is a lot of stuff around saying, hey, you know, we have power as individuals, we can do this. But I would also like to point out that we have a lot of power as collectives, and that it's actually really important in this to understand that we can actually reach out to each other and tell other people's stories, or join up with other communities or organisations to help, because I think sometimes there's too much onus, and sort of like what Widyan said, you know, it also puts all the onus on the victims. And it's really important for us to actually talk to some of the people that are dealing with this and wrestle back the narrative. You know, like that's where the power is. And it should be a collective narrative that we are interested in. That's what kind of cohesion and multiculturalism and cultural diversity and working against these big issues are. So yeah, if we can actually like champion some of those marginalised voices, and you guys be the people that help do that and facilitate that, I think that's an incredibly empowering thing.
Jeremy?
Yeah, I'm just sort of feeling for the white people in this room. You know, we've got 4 brown people on the couch. I mean, I'm just sort of, you know, I'm sort of looking at, there was a wonderful film that was produced, you know, I think in the 80s called Barbecue Area, which basically flips the racism, and it's sort of a bit like that right now. Is that every time there's a racial comment, you know, on TV, it's always the 4 white journalists having a conversation around it. So it's a pretty beautiful experience to sit on the lounge with, you know, a very diverse panel, but also just walking into this room, you know, the many cultures that have definitely shaped my life. You know, I talk about, you know, my Aboriginality and my identity because that's who I am. It's not a cape. I can't take it off. It's not a costume. It is who I am. But the many influences, you know, my mum and dad that raised me from the time I was 5, like dad was Māori and mum was Samoan. And so as a boy growing up, like learning all about Pacific Island culture and Māori culture and learning all about Sasa and learning all about that Polynesian sense of love, you know, it's a very different narrative to the violence that gets portrayed. And so I think that, you know, we as young people, and I'm not young anymore, I'm clutching at the straws, but I'm going to be forever young. But I think that, you know, don't let anyone ever define your leadership. You define it yourself.